everybody? Dave Clark, aka the Pattern Guy. Keep on promising you guys that we're gonna start doing some pattern work. Still don't have too much in here right now. I do have another job I gotta get done this week. So I gotta run this job right here down at the Foundry. I don't have a flask for it. So as I said in my Foundry intro, we have, I've been making some plywood flasks for right now. So I'm going to show you how to do one of those. That's something you guys can use, you know, if you get into the foundry aspect of this. They're really quick to make, really easy to make, and they work really well. But like I said, they just don't last long enough. The amount of I'll use these, they just won't last. So last week I took you down to the Foundry. I had to pour some molds. I'll show you those real quick, what we did down there. This is, again, something like this. This is for a cross slide nut for a Warner & Swayze turret lathe. I forget what model it is in it. That's the same as this. This pattern right here, this is the finished product. I actually machined these too for the guy, all right? So I made these patterns quite a few years ago. I didn't have my foundry set up. We got some castings made and then I machined these. Now I got my own foundry going. We can cast these, then I'll machine them for them, okay? Another thing we do, I keep on telling you, I do a lot of stuff for rideable steam trains. So this is for my buddy Jesse Banning out at Banning Locomotive Works. It's a axle box. So I actually made the pattern for these. That was the pattern that I was demonstrating with a little bit. You could see the hole where the core came out there. And then this is a little cover that goes over this axle box. Jesse sent me the pattern for these. He already had the pattern. I should have dug that out too. It's a little interesting pattern. It's a different style again. We get into, and then this is a little number plaque that they put on the locomotive. So I made that for them too. So those are the patterns. So right now what we're going to do is I'm going to do a little chalk talk and I'll show you. It's really important when you first start doing this stuff to have like a little cut list, a lot of people call it, and that. So we'll do some measuring. I'll show you what I got to do for measuring on this. We'll do a little chalk talk and get a little lumber list going. When I do this, okay, keep in mind I've been doing this stuff for a long time. So if you see me do something on the table saw, the band saw, the sander, whatever, if you do not feel comfortable the way I do things, do not do it. Okay, there's a lot of different ways you can hold things, push things through the table saw. My table saw doesn't have a blade guard on it. OSHA says that you have to have, in the regular shops, you have to. On my own, this is my owner, I own this, so I don't need to have one on there. I don't like them personally either, but always follow all safer is definitely glasses. I'm old and stupid. These are just regular glasses. I should probably put some sideshow glasses over, but like I said, I'm old and stupid. I'm just so used to just wearing these regular glasses. Always wear glasses, period. Don't ever get on any kind of machine, anything without wearing glasses. All right? Don't let my wife hear me say this, but to me, hearing protection, that's optional. My wife does hearing aids and that. So there are certain, when I run the router and other loud things, I use hearing protection, but for sanders and saws and stuff, I usually don't put them in there. But if you want to use, do the hearing, I'd rather hear music than machines all the time, so keep your hearing good. Get some either plugs or some earmuffs, whatever. So, but always really keep safety in mind. It's a really big thing. And like I said, if you see me do something that you do not feel comfortable doing, do not do it, please. Okay, I don't want to see anybody get hurt out there. All right, so let's get the measuring and get a cut list going, okay? Okay guys, So what you do before you start any project, you always got to have a material list or a cut list or whatever. Always do this because it's, you know, you cut a whole bunch of pieces up on the table saw, chop saw, whatever. Start assembling something and you need one more piece, so you got to set everything up again, all right? So what we're going to do is we're going to make a flask so that I can pour this job, all right? On here already is a little outline. I don't know if you can see it. That's the inside of the flask, okay? So when you measure a flask in the intro to the Foundry, I had a bunch of plywood flasks, or you can see I had 12, 24, 12, whatever. All right, so all the flasks will have a number on them, okay? So this particular flask, it's always the inside of the flasks, okay? So this outline, actually, you want an inch around your metal, easy, okay? So I just measured this out real quick, and I get 12 inches. So the inside will be 12 inches, and then from end to end, I got 18. So what we're gonna have to build is a 12-18 flask, okay? So we'll do 12 by 18 flask, okay? And remember, that's the inside dimension, okay? Now the next important dimensions on the flask are the height, okay? So this is the cope. I know this is a cope because it's risers. Risers go in the cope. Okay, so this is my drag. So the lowest point of the mold, or it'd be the highest on the pattern. Okay, this is my gating here, right? So this is the highest piece right here. That measures roughly 2 inches. Okay, so this is 2 inches high off of the parting here. So you want at least 2 inches of sand underneath this, okay? That's a little thermodynamic for when the, you know, there's gonna be 1800 degree metal here. So, you know, you gotta have some protection there, okay? So we'll do 2 inches. This is 2 inches plus 2 inches underneath. So my drag, okay, the drag will be 4 inches high. All right, then we'll flip this over, do the cope. All right, we'll measure this riser here, and this riser is roughly 6.5. Okay, so that's the exact dimension I want. Okay, so what I want to do is some guys will go higher, make it a blind riser. I don't do that. I always just have the top of the riser. That's going to make a hole. That's going to be my venting, okay? So these are 6.5. So my cope, all right, the cope, oops, not joke, cope is going to be 6.5 high, all right? Okay, now I'm not going to draw this in 3D. I'm not a CAD program. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to make a box like this, okay? What I use is I go to Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever, and I get the lowest grade 3/4 inch plywood, 3/4 inches, because, you know, some of my lengths are like 30 something inches, so I want some strength to them. All right, so don't forget, this is 3/4 wide, all right? So we got 3/4. So the way I always do this, I start out with this piece being the exact piece, 12 inches long, okay? And then what I do is my outside piece is here. All right, so I gotta go 18 inches on inside, right? But I gotta add 3/4 and 3/4, so 3/4 and 3/4 is 1.5 inches. On top, 18 is 19.5. Okay, so I need 2 pieces. All right, we need 2 pieces. 19.5 by my drag, 4 inches. Okay, then I'm going to need 2 pieces. 19.5. Oops, I'm sorry, 12 inches. 12 inches by 4. Okay, so that'll give me, that's my drag half. Okay, so let's do the cope. There's my drag. Okay, so let's do the cope. Alright, so you know, basically it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to need 2 pieces, 19 and a half, but not by 4. I need the 6 and a half by 6 and a half. Alright, and then I'm going to need 2 pieces at 12 inches by 6 and a half high. Okay? Alright, so there's the cut list I need. I need 2 pieces, 2 pieces. Alright, so I'm going to move this out of the way. We're going to get the table saw set up and what we got to do next. Alright? Okay, I cut a piece of plywood already off a full sheet. Okay, so what I did, I took the 12 inches and 19 and a half plus a little bit extra. Okay, so I set the table saw up for my first cut, 4 inches wide. Like I said, I don't have a blade guard on this. What I do is I just set the blade just slightly higher than what it's going to take to get through this material. That way I don't have an extra 3 inches of blade sticking out where I can cut my fingers off. The only drawback with this, a lot of times, you have to keep that piece of plywood or whatever you're cutting, you got to keep pressure on it because it will ride up the blade. Okay, so you got to keep plywood or pressure on this. Like I said, I'm going to cut these up. If you don't like the way I do things, don't do it the way I do it, okay? Normally what I try to do, this is a little bigger. I always try to keep my hand up here on here. That way I don't, you know, get into the blade. You know, watch where your thumbs are. The most important thing is watch where these are, okay? I'm going to be pushing, make sure my thumb is not where it's going to go into the blade, okay? So watch where your fingers are going to go. Watch where you put these all the time. And I got 10 still. I've been doing this for almost 50 years. So, all right. And my dad's missing a couple. It took him 70 years to lose one. So I'll get going on this and we'll start putting some stuff together in a minute, okay? Alright, I gotta do the 6 and a half, so I'm gonna reset it. 6 and a half. Get these pieces out of the way. That'll be my drag. I always drop the blade down right away too. So next step, I'm going to set up the chop saw, chop these to length. Okay guys, limited room in the shop here, so I usually don't have this set up to chop saw. Okay, I usually don't have it set up. I just got it on top of the table saw right now, alright? So I cut these to the width on the table saw, alright? Now we got to cut them to length. Okay, so when I laid this out, I did my 12 inches plus 19 and a half inches, alright, plus a little bit, you know, extra for the saw cutting that, okay? So I got 2 pieces here, so that should be 2 pieces 19 and a half, 2 pieces 12 inches, okay? Normally what we do, especially being a pattern maker, and I want to teach you to be a master craftsman, I usually put a square line on here, but this does a real good job square-wise, alright? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make one cut on the end first, just cut a little tiny bit off. That'll give me a good square cut, okay? So let's make one square cut real quick. Alright, so first cut, I'll just go ahead and do my 12 inch. Alright, mark 12 inches. And then here again, it's hard to line up. A lot of guys, especially if you're just starting out, you know, get your square out, put a line. To me, like I said, I've been doing this a long time. It's just it's not worth my time. So, okay. Now I want to keep this piece because, like I said, I did the 12 plus 19 and a half. So I'm gonna go to my next piece. Okay, get a square cut on the end. Okay, now instead of using a tape measure, I'll just use the first piece I cut. Alright, now I'm just going to cut one more piece But if I was going to cut 50 more pieces or whatever, 12 inches, use the same piece, the first piece that you cut off, okay? Don't, you know, put this one to the side, do the next one, use that piece to do the next one. Because what happens if you're off a little bit, then the next piece is going to be off, and then it's just going to either grow or it's going to shrink. So if you're going to do multiple pieces, always use the first one you cut. All right. Okay. Okay, so I got my two 12-inch. These are longer because remember I said, you know, I cut them a little bit longer. I already have two square ends, right? Because I just cut them off of the 12-inch. So I need, I don't know if you see over there, I need two pieces, 19.5. All right. Okay, another thing that's kind of out there a little bit, okay? I'm right-handed, okay? Try to learn how to use the opposite hand, become ambidextrous, okay? So, especially when you do turning on the lathe, there's a lot of times that you gotta use your left hand to do turning. So try to, you know, you're undoing nuts and bolts, you know, go over there with your other hand, you know, try to get it going. I'm right-handed, so I got this set up right now where, you know, it's going to be uncomfortable for me to cross my hands over here. So I'm pretty ambidextrous because I've been doing this for a while, so I just use my left hand. Okay, or you can just turn the board around. All right, so I got my 19.5. I'm going to cut another one. Okay. Move the scrap piece out of there. There's the pieces for my drag. Okay, so I'm going to go over to the 6.5-inch pieces, cut a square in, and do the whole thing again. Okay. Okay, ran into an issue here. My old saw is bigger. I got a little bit left on the end. Now this is one of those things too. I'm older, I've been doing this a lot. If you do not feel comfortable, I'll show you something that I do, a lot of older guys do, okay? Just pick this board up a little bit. You gotta be real careful that you don't twist it, jam it into the blade, okay? So if you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't do it, okay? You can flip the board around, make a second cut. So I'm gonna do my 12-inch piece first. Same thing as I did the last time. It would have helped if I had my piece on there. Alright. And two, with these flasks, alright, like I keep on saying, I'm going to say it over and over and over, I want to make you a master. I want you to do quality work, okay? This is a flask, okay? It's going to get destroyed, it's going to get burned to a crisp shortly. Do a nice job on it, but it's not a piece of furniture either, okay? So, like I said, always do the best job, the nicest job you can, but don't spend 10 hours making something when you can do it in an hour, okay? Alright, there's my 12-inch pieces, and I go to my 19.5. Okay, now there's my coat pieces. Okay, now we get set up to glue these together. I'll show you how to do that real easy. Okay? Okay guys, next step in this is when we have a flasks, when we make flasks, you can't just have straight walls in the inside the flask, because when you pick the flask up, it's got usually around anywhere from 20 to a couple hundred pounds of sand in it, right? So you just pick the flask frame up right off the sand. So we got to make some indentations or whatever for the sand to get into. So when you pick the flask up, the sand stays in the mold. Okay. So the way I do this on these is I just grab a Forstner bit right here, and I just same thing. It doesn't matter how far you go down. Doesn't matter where they are. I'm gonna drop this down a little bit here. Not deep enough. Okay. Doesn't matter where these go. All right. Just as long as there's some here. Okay. The only thing that you want to do is these are the longer sides. So right here I marked off where the one piece is coming in. You don't want to, go over into here. Okay. So the short 12-inch ones I have to worry about because they're going right into here. All right. Okay, I got done with the drill press. All right, just put these little bit of holes in there, indentations, whatever. Sand will go in there and we'll be able to pick everything up, okay? So again, I want you to do everything as good as you can, but this isn't furniture, okay? It's just a flask. So when you do everything, we want everything perfectly square, perfectly flat, things like that. These, obviously we're gonna be square, but I don't waste the time getting the square out, making everything square. This is a layout table. Okay, it's precision. It's not as precision anymore. This is what I use for my workbench mostly. Okay, it's got a square edge. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take my long sides, put them out here. All right, and then I'm just gonna glue these, butt the ends here. All right, and then I should be square enough, okay? And then what I do is I'm gonna put glue on these. I'm just gonna let them sit for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, then put clamps in there, because if you put the clamps on when the glue's wet, things are gonna be moving around in that. I don't want that to happen. And like I said, it's not furniture, it's not a pattern, so we can just let them set for a little bit and we'll put the clamps on a little bit. All right, so I'll probably do that off camera and then we'll show you what we get. Now once I got that one done, I'm gonna put the cope on top of this one, okay? Another thing, like I said, I don't get paid to endorse products or anything. I used to get 5 different trade magazines, Popular Mechanics, Fine Woodworking, all that stuff. I used to read all the articles. I used to just, get as much information, the different woods, different, glues and all this stuff. This is the glue I like, okay? It's Elmer's Carpenter's glue, the yellow glue. The reason I use this stuff is it doesn't, the white glues tend to, when they harden and they get fragile, brittle kind of thing. This stuff actually flexes a little bit. It's kind of rubbery kind of deal. So when the wood's expanding and contracting, okay, this will move with it, okay. The other stuff, the glue joints will break on you, okay. So you don't want that with pattern making. Patterns, they got to be pretty rugged because they go into a really rough environment. There's sand. I mean, you've been on the beach, get sand on you, it's everywhere. That's a foundry. You're in sand, okay? It's very rough. Most of the guys that work in foundries, they pay a minimum wage. They don't care about, you have a $10,000 pattern. They don't care how much that thing costs, right? So you gotta try to make things as rugged. Like I said, I don't get paid. This is what I use. It's worked really well for me through the years. So, read some magazines nowadays. Like I said, I haven't been reading the magazines in the last, probably 14 years. Things change in that. Like I said, there's, read some magazines. Other guys, there's a lot of cool information out on the internet. There's a lot of guys that are keeping up on this stuff a little bit more than I used to. I just don't anymore because, I've been doing it so long and I know what I'm doing. What I've been doing and using has been working for me, so I'm kind of sticking with it for the most part. So, all right, so we're just gonna glue these together real quick, and then, like I said, what we're gonna do is let them sit for about 5 minutes. Put some clamps on them. Oh, I did the wrong side there. We'll let them sit, put some clamps on it, And then once we get these things all clamped up, then we're ready to take them apart. I won't keep them in the clamps long. You want to keep them in clamps at least 4 hours usually. 4 to 8 hours. I like to, if I'm doing a big pattern job, something that I need that's going to stay, I like to put them in clamps for like 8 hours. These I'll probably clamp them for about an hour. And then these are going to get screwed. So, you know, we'll just put some screws in there. We should be good to go for a little bit. So check back with you guys in a little bit. Okay guys, I got these in clamps. Like I said, I don't put 4 hours on these things, so I'm gonna screw these together, okay? So normally, all right, you get one of these things, you get them from, I don't like to frequent Harbor Freight too much in that, but you can get these at Lowe's, Home Depot, whatever. It's a drill bit and a countersink all in one, okay? So I'm gonna go around, drill all the holes in that. Then the thing I don't recommend usually, I don't use drywall screws for patterns at all, okay? They're just too brittle, you break them. But for these flasks, they're fine, okay? 3/4 inch wall thickness, 2-inch screws, you know, you're good to go, okay? So I'll just start screwing this up and then I'll see you in a minute. Okay, I got these things screwed together. All right, you got my drag here, the coat. All right, so now what I gotta do is I gotta put the ears on. All right, so I pre-made these. I got a big box of these things. All right, so how I make these, it's 3/4 plywood. It's the same, you know, stock as this. All right, so I just go on the table saw. I believe these are like 2.5 inches. Somebody, yep, 2.5 inches. So I just cut a big 2.5 inch strip, and then I've got one of these that I keep as a pattern, and I just lay it on there, go over to the bandsaw, cut them out, sand them on the sander, okay? And then for a little added strength to these too, I make these little gussets. It's called a gusset, okay? So this is gonna go on here, and then we're gonna glue this gusset on here. All right, and that's the same, I did this the same way as this, all right? It's like 2 inches. I just cut a 2-inch strip. These are out of 1/2 inch stock, okay? And then I just have a little pattern. Just zap back and forth, cut them on the bandsaw, go over to the disc sander there, and I sand them up on the disc, okay? These I break the edges a little bit because when they're in here, you're going to be putting your fingers in here. You don't want to bust your knuckles. These I just, you know, keep straight. So the important thing when you're putting these ears on is they can't go all the way down to the bottom. You don't want both halves touching because you got to get your fingers underneath here in order to pick the flask up off of the pattern, okay? So what I did, I got a couple pieces of 1/4 inch plywood, and what we'll do is we'll put these underneath here, okay? And then what I do to all these, when I do these, I just do a whole bunch at one time. I put a center line on here, and then I put these 2 lines on here on the outside. That's where I'm gonna glue the gussets to, so that way I can just bam, 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 go, okay? The center line is important because later down the road I'm going to have to, after these glue up for a little bit, we'll screw them from the inside. You got to drill a 5/8 hole. We'll have them both together, drill a 5/8 hole through both ears. One side will get the pin, the drag side, and the cope half will just leave a 5/8 hole. All right, and that'll line up the flask, okay? So all I got to do is just put a little bit of glue. I got my 1/4 inch piece of plywood down there. Just put a little bit of glue on here. And then I already have this marked out on here, okay? Pre-mark those out and just line them up. And then we'll just let these sit for about an hour-ish, somewhere around there, half hour. And then what we'll do is we'll screw those in from the inside, okay? And I'll go ahead and glue the gussets on here right away too. I'm going to lose my cameraman here, so he's got to take off. So what I'm not going to be able to do is show you how I drill for the pins and that, but it's really easy. You just book the two halves together. We got the center line already on here. What you're going to have to do is, like I said, this is a 12 by, what size is this again? It's 12 by 18. Okay, so every time I make a flask, I've got a notebook in there, and this is kind of important too, because you don't want to do different size, all right? So I'll go look up in my notebook, 18-inch flask. Usually you go another 3 inches for your pin centers, how wide the pins are, okay? And you want to keep that the same for 18 inches. You want to keep that the same every time. I don't want to do this one, make it 22 inches, and then make another flask with 18 inches, but maybe wide or whatever. Have a different pin center like 21, and then you can't interact the different flasks on it. So you want to keep the pin centers all the same. Just write them down in a little notebook. Keep the pin centers the same. Like I said, it's about 3 inches over. I think I do these, so we'll mark 21 inches on the pins. Put these together. Drill the 5/8 hole on the drag half. This will be flipped over. This is the parting under here, okay? So the pin will be actually going down, but we want it up, okay? The important part for the length of the pins, and this is one of the things that I see a lot of the home guys do. They have different ways that they put the flask together. I'll see some guys, they'll have 2 pieces and another piece to go in, and that, or I'll see some guys will actually bolt them together, and when they're ready to take the pattern out, they unbolt it. You need those pins in there. The reason you need the pins in there, when we get down to Foundry, it'll be a little bit more clear. But you need the pins in these because, especially doing the molds by hand, when you're taking the coat half off of your mold to get your pattern out, you got to lift that coat flask up perfectly straight. Because if you, jiggle it back and forth, let me grab this pattern real quick. Okay, so see how far up these risers are. If I'm jiggling that coat half, when I'm pulling this off, I'm denting my mold, right? I'm crapping my mold up. Not a big thing for the gating, but your patterns, you want to at least make sure that mold comes up clear to get over your patterns, because if you rock it back and forth, your mold isn't right? So you got the pins sticking up. As you're pulling that up, those pins will help you keep that coat from going back and forth, okay? So when I do the pins on there, these pins are going to be pretty long. I'm going to want them to come up, at least to here. Like I said, I'll clear the pattern. If I mess the mold up a little bit where the risers are, it's not a big deal because we just cut the risers off. They're garbage, all right? But the pins are really important. Your pin length, it's really important. Like I say, once we get down to the Foundry, I'll show you why. It'll be a little bit more clear that way. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish these up here, guys. Well, like I said too, real quick, I'll show you these. I got these gussets, okay? These are kind of important. You don't want these ears to move, all right? So I just put these gussets in here. All right, these I don't do anything, I just glue them in. The ears, I'll put a couple screws on the inside, okay? But we'll put these gussets on real quick. And, you know, that's it. That's your flask right there, okay? You know, minus your pins, all right? But these are, like I said, it's real easy to do. If I were doing these on my own without filming and everything, you know, I could bust one of these things out in, you know, less than a half an hour. And it goes really quick. They're pretty sturdy in that. They're real nice little fast, real easy to make and that. So, you know, for these, they're great. Like I said, down the road, we'll show you how to do some aluminum ones, all right? But until next week, I'll try to get a pattern in here, guys, see what I can do, and next week we'll try to get going on some patterns, all right? Until then, guys, have a good one out there, alrighty?